Industrial Development Agency to order. And I will ask if there is any public comment for the board. And hearing no one and seeing no one, will close the public comment portion. So we have a few meeting minutes to approve. I think we were all here except for Ken, which we hope that Ken is recovering, as we understand that he is, and wish him well, and anxious to get him back in here. So the first minutes are from our October 17th regular IDA meeting.
Sorry, I just have a comment on that. That's the meeting that I came in late to, and the chair gave me permission.
Oh,
so I think I should be.
Yeah, you're not shown on here otherwise. Just got that.
That you were late on the 17th?
The meeting of the 17th, she is not listed as being present or excused.
Oh, okay. But
Good
she,
catch. And you came in, I think, at like 5.
Yeah.
yeah.
So if that could be amended, that, well, I need a second first.
Second.
And so then if those can be amended to show that Donna arrived at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any other corrections or comments on those minutes?
On the meeting of the 17th.
That's meeting of the 17th. Okay. Okay, so all in favor as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Now we'll go to the special meeting of the 24th. And we were all in attendance except for Ken, who was by phone. So motion for those minutes.
So
Second.
Any corrections or comments there?
This one says the meeting was on November 24th. It should say October 24th,
Thank you.
since we're not there yet.
good catch.
And the next set of minutes also needs to be shifted from November to October.
Yeah, our agendas show them as October meetings, however, the minutes is written. Okay. Any other corrections to the meeting of the October the 24th? All in favor?
Aye.
And then the special meeting of October the 25th.
So moved approval with the amended date reflecting October.
Second.
Any other corrections or comments regarding those? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moving on to financials, let's start with resolution 2022-11, authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
I reviewed this month's bills and I moved to make payment.
A second.
Any questions or comments regarding any of those bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the other financial statements, cash balances, investment reporting, and the financial statements themselves. I've had a chance to take a look at those. Any questions for Martha or comments regarding any of those reports?
I did speak with Megan Burke, our rep from LPL Tompkins, because we do have a CD maturing at the end of the month. We got something coming up in February, maturing in the investment portfolio, and a few other maturities. So we are looking at the rates and seeing what opportunities we have for investment, and we may go back to that advisory, because right now we're in a brokerage account, and so you don't have that person working for you. It's basically you're running it yourself. So, but if we move back into that advisory, based on the rates that are available, we're probably going to do that, make that move.
You're seeing CD rates for?
90 days, 3.25 was one of the most recent ones we got. When I spoke with Megan, she had some opportunities for 4.5, 5 for treasuries, year-long treasuries. So definitely an uptick. Mhm.
Any question from the board, anyone? Okay, moving into old business, we have.
Oh, before we leave there, I'm sorry, on the P&L, you'll see that the income is significantly above the budget. And again, that reflects the negotiated lease for Packett's Landing. Thank you.
All right. Landscape maintenance proposals.
Right, as you recall, this evening we have Nicole Reddington with us from Josh Landscaping. And last month we presented some proposals. The board had asked for some additional information with regard to planting plans and/or other options to reduce our maintenance.
I have copies of the plans. And I have some photos that we can pass. Sure. So, you're welcome. I'm going to give you.
No, I have an extra. Yep.
Thanks. Does anyone have? Are you still on work? Maybe you guys can share.
Yeah.
Let them have.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine, thanks.
All right.
If they have to, wait, do they have to share? Let them,
I don't hear you.
that's what I meant, yeah.
Okay. Then. So one is of the butterfly garden, which didn't really change much. And then the second one is of the north parking lot, which I did add some to that. And Martha and I talked about maybe, what's another option if we're trying to keep this as low maintenance as possible. So I have a couple ideas. What's shown there is adding some riprap rock at the bottom, about a 5-foot strip of that. And then just supplementing the plantings that are already there, adding more. Right now you have a good mass of grow low sumac, which is a very good choice for a low maintenance slope retention plant. So I supplemented that to make it 100% coverage. Originally in the proposal I sent you, I told it was like, about 80%. I didn't know, I was trying not to go nuts, but just work towards filling in the area. Here I'm showing you, here's what it would cost to do, fill this whole area in, and adding that strip of riprap to ease up on the maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And to not have it, you could make that whole thing riprap. I don't think that would look so great, but it's an option. So that's kind of my suggested option. The riprap at the bottom is also nice because plowing and stuff, it's not going to be, it'll give the snow somewhere to go that's not sitting on top of plants that'll eventually break down the plants.
How large are the boulders?
They're about 6 to 8 inches.
Okay.
It's what you would see like on a culvert on a side of a road, on a highway culvert or something like that. So they're pretty big.
Because one of the things is people do when we're parking is at a premium, you'll find people parking along here. So I just wonder how that.
They would not want to park on that.
Is that sloped in that, what's the width there?
Here, I have some
Nicole?
pictures.
Is it like 8 foot or something, or 5 foot?
It's about 5 foot wide.
And is that on the slope? Because I was
It
thinking
is,
the
but
same thing as Martha
It's
is
kind of
about
flat at
people,
that area.
even if it's parallel parking, when that parking gets
Right,
busy.
or there's snow on
Do
it.
you
and
want
they don't.
people parking there?
I don't.
So this
You
is-
don't,
I-
okay.
It kind of looks slow, but it's pretty flat at that first part.
Okay.
This was just in August. So
So would bigger rocks be the answer to that?
No, I think absolutely what she's proposing.
yeah, I don't think you would.
Medium
This would
stone
deter
fill,
people. I
yeah.
think
Okay,
it'd be enough to deter them. And again, nothing is no maintenance. Even this is gonna capture weeds because the weeds grow even on a tiny little bit of soil that gets blown onto these. So, but with regular maintenance, they can spray those and keep on top of them. So
Mhm.
I think it's,
And now your sketches that we're looking at, you have the existing sumac as we
Yeah.
can see here. And so the newly planted ones, they would mass like what
Yeah.
we're looking at currently, right?
so that's what you have
And
currently.
that, I mean, even though these look like individual plantings,
They
which they are, but they
Right.
will grow
Eventually.
together.
Yeah, we have them spaced 4 feet apart, which is a good spacing for that plant. That plant will grow 4 to 6 feet apart eventually. So we have 4 feet. But again, that's gonna require maintenance to get it established. Until it's established and full, there's gonna be weeds in between the plants until they mature. And even after they mature, if it's, you're either mowing or weeding, right? If it's a mulch bed, you're gonna always have to weed a little bit. Less when you have something good like this that'll fill in, but always, and I just brought some pictures from when Martha and I first met in August of 21.
Yeah.
Just to show you, like,
Yeah,
what
I
it looked
think
like,
she sent them to us.
yeah, so it was quite overgrown, and so there were a lot of, that was full of the sumac. And it got lost because these weeds all took over, so it wasn't being maintained. And then here's kind of when we started maintaining it, we started to be able to find what was under there and save some of them.
Is there like weed mat under that when it was built initially?
No, but honestly, I never recommend that. It's terrible for the plants. It's a nightmare for maintenance because it always comes up. Then you end up just mulching over and doing too much mulch. And yeah, it's just, I don't feel it's a good idea. Then there's also you're battling the Phragmites.
Yes, I was gonna ask.
Which is a terrible, very super invasive plant. But again, you can see by the end, I mean, I don't know if you guys know what it looks like today, but this was in August, and right now it's quite clean. By the end, with regular maintenance, they can stay on top of that.
Is this a pretty good illustration of the sumac
As it is.
as it is now? And
Yeah,
what we
Yeah,
expect
so
to
we're-
see kind of going forward once these all take?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's sumac at its mature with.
Okay.
So that's one way to handle it. Another, probably the least maintenance, would be to seed this whole thing with like the type of, like an erosion control seed mix that you would see on a highway. The one I have in mind is called Crown Vetch. I have a picture of that.
Yeah.
It's invasive, but it'll, you kind of need something invasive here to take over. And the mixture that we would buy has Crown Vetch, Annual Rye, and Clover. Annual Rye fills in before the other things can mature, and then it dies off because it's an annual. So it helps keep the weeds at bay while the other plants are maturing. And then the Crown Vetch is it's a perennial, it's got a pink flower, and it's a viney type.
I've seen it mixed with bird's foot trefoil. Isn't that the little yellow ones that
yeah.
are mixed?
Yeah, you could do a mix, but it's invasive, which is a good and a bad thing. But I wouldn't put it in your house. But for this application, it's just a consistent look, So if you wanted to do something like this, I brought a proposal too with the new numbers with the additional grow sumac. I did an option to show you if you wanted to entertain doing this. Maybe we would take some of those existing sumac and then just kind of move them all over to one side. So transplant some to fill in the hole at the end by the charging station. The retaining wall. And then do the other half this, or I would hate to take those out and do all.
So once you put Crown Vetch in, you're basically doing nothing, right? I mean, there could be some like big tall weeds that popped up there.
Right, you're always, like I said, if there's a mulch bed, you're always gonna have some, weeds, but not super, maybe
You don't mulch
DPW.
anymore, there's no mulching. You have to You have to remove the mulch that's there to do
No.
that.
What I would do, and I put this in the notes on my proposal, is I would send out to Cornell for a soil test and just tell them this is the mix I want to use. Do you think we need to do any amendments? Because one of the big things with getting seed to take is, the type of soil you're putting it in. And we didn't do that soil, so I don't know where it came from or how good or bad it is. So it's probably pretty good because the plants look happy once they're, the weeds certainly were happy.
Yes.
So I would do a soil test, and if they said you should, if they really felt strongly we should amend it with anything, I would just do an additional proposal for that amendment, because I don't want to just throw a number at putting soil and compost if you might not need it. So that's another option. You would have to keep the crown vetch away from the sumac, like it would take that over. So there'll be a little maintenance at keeping that crown vetch at bay. The other side, you don't care because it's the Phragmites, and hopefully that, keeps that at bay. So
This is a good slope stabilizer.
it is, yeah. It's often used for that purpose because it can grow fast and it's so invasive.
Is an option here ground cover like I would think of in a flower bed in my yard?
Yeah.
Like an English ivy or something like that is similarly low, really low maintenance, if not no?
It is. I would probably do Pachysandra just because that can take the sun.
Okay.
But that'll be some maintenance to keep it weed free until it takes over, until it gets nice and thick.
Versus
That
the
would
crown
stay green
vetch.
all year, right?
Yes, and that would be evergreen. I don't know. The only thing I don't know is if that's okay with salt. I know the sumac is fine with
Gotcha.
salt and crown vetch, but I don't know about how Pachysandra handles salt. And I would imagine there's going to be a lot of salt pushed.
Yeah.
From
Oh, I don't know if they salt that parking lot. Do you imagine they do?
I would imagine.
Yes.
But
Oh, okay.
I don't know that for a
Yeah,
fact.
no. Even if they're just pushing snow that's from the road, that's going to have
Ah,
salt in it.
okay.
I don't know. I feel like anywhere there's snow, there's salt. Long Island, we used a lot of sand.
Ah, yes, yes.
We had sand at our ready there. The other, I did not price this out, but the third option is this is
Oh, right.
at the canal in Pittsburgh. They did a little meadow here, so that's an option. Probably, these take a while to get established. They look pretty, but that's going to take some maintenance to make sure the weeds aren't taking
I'm
over.
not sure that's a metal location.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
park.
well, probably not. But
So the options are planting more.
supplement what you have
Like
now
that.
and add the riprap,
Yeah. Or
or
move those over and do the crown vetch.
yep,
Or a similar.
similar mixture, some
Mhm.
a slope retention mixture.
Okay, would the
Seed
crown
mix.
vetch for slope retention perform better than, say, waiting for Pachysandra? Or,
Yes, it'll be faster.
because I think that's one of the issues is we want it to happen,
Yeah, it's just a matter of the look. Do you
Yeah.
like that look or not? It's a wild look. It's gonna, I personally think it looks nice.
Mhm.
I like driving on the highway and seeing the seeded areas that they're, mowing once a year, kind of thing. But so it's a more natural look.
But the vetch wouldn't be mowed.
No,
We
No.
do nothing. Keep the garbage out, keep
keep
it
the
at
garbage
bay
out,
from the
weeds, and the
low-growing sumac.
it's more the crown vetch is going to encroach on the
Yes.
sumac.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the Phragmites, keep the Phragmites at bay.
So do we have the proposals for?
I brought them
That
with
we're
me.
getting those now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 3 copies.
That's fine.
No, okay. Let me just flip to what's in here. So the first thing is the planting of the butterfly garden, which we haven't talked about, but that's a lot smaller. And then on the second and third page are the 2 options for the north parking lot. So one would be a seating option, and in that I still have the riprap, and I have actually 10 shrubs at the top. Right now you have about 5 or 6 gray dogwoods left up there, and I'm proposing doing bayberry on either side of those. which is a nice evergreen. It's got berries, native shrub.
I think part of the issue up at the top is the plowing of the parking
Oh,
lot up there,
yeah.
so,
Is
right?
that where
They dump.
is that snow storage there?
For the Alberti property, I
Alberti,
think so,
Uh,
yeah.
So maybe we want to transplant those, like make a nice shrub mass in the middle of the slope where the Phragmites stops and before the new plants start. Just as like a little transition. But, so there's a couple options. So the first page is the butterfly garden, and then second and third are the two options for the north parking lot.
Do any of the options that you're presenting us tonight,
Mhm.
do they impact the maintenance proposals that we've received prior?
No, you're gonna have similar
Okay.
maintenance needs. You're probably gonna have a little bit less, and like I said, like your number went down. We track our hours.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we track our hours. So if you end up doing the planting and it works out, that they don't need as much time. You know, when we go to renew the contract, I look at the hours and see where, you know,
Right, no,
how we do.
the
and-
proposal
Yeah.
was quite a bit lower
Yeah.
for the maintenance
Yeah.
this year, so that we have to decide that maintenance aspect yet too.
Yeah,
So Martha, your comment on the up top,
Mhm.
and the plowing, is that in relation to putting more trees up there? Is that what
I
you're
think that was
or
my
you're
hesitancy,
cautioning?
was that if we, I think that's what happened to the top of that slope, is
Okay.
that, now I didn't make a study of it, but I think the original planning did have
yeah, it was
whatever's,
completely planted. I think they were viburnums or something on the original plan.
right, and
Um,
they're not there.
Yeah,
So
They're
I
completely
think that
gone.
part of it
Yeah,
is
like
the
much.
snow.
yeah, I think that, and, I mean, this was from when you and I first met out there too, like, the, Alianthus just completely took over.
Oh,
Weed tree, so
we
it could have
could've
been that
lost
too,
some-
yeah.
Oh, I
If
see.
they, if they got planted small, they might have just gotten choked out. So you
Okay.
could see how it goes,
Mm-hmm,
see what happens this winter, and that's where they're storing snow. The sumac is not gonna like that either. No, no shrub, no woody shrub is gonna want snow piled on top of it for the whole winter. So in that
Yeah.
case, I'd probably do more crown vetch up there, or whatever ground cover you choose. Yeah, I don't-
of the proposals, we're interested in low maintenance
Mhm,
and preservation of what we have.
mhm.
In your professional opinion, which way which would be your preferred? What would make us happiest?
Well, looks wise, I like this one. That's why I drew this one up. I think the crown vetch is a smart option for you because it's going to be very low maintenance, but you're going to have half shrubs, half crown vetch. Do I love that design? Not really, you know. So looks wise and medium maintenance, I think this is the best.
Mhm. Okay.
The crown vetch option, not the end of the world. That's why I would want to kind of transplant some, like take some of this and finesse that line and move them over here. So this looks like a deliberate mass.
Well,
not
and there
like
is-
we filled in with crown vetch where there wasn't.
And there's nothing here
Right.
right now. There
Yeah.
used to be.
So
So
that I
there's,
didn't, because it wasn't
Right.
part of the original maintenance, I didn't even consider that, but I
Yep.
certainly got pictures of that and realized that this whole slope here is,
could
needs some help.
benefit from
What we're
the,
doing is putting in some green between two parking spaces, so,
yeah,
or two parking lots.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think many people are looking at it aesthetically.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't think this is our crown jewel.
no,
of the village.
This is
You know what
not
I'm
the
saying?
butterfly garden.
No, it is not. You're right,
I mean, it serves a purpose.
right.
but it doesn't
lots
have
of
to be
crown jewels
expensive.
in Fairport that trump this
Yes,
spot, that's
yes.
for sure.
Is there I didn't see the proposals. Is there a big price difference between those
A
two?
few grand, yeah.
Okay,
The
so-
planting, this one is about 13 and change, and I believe the crown vetch option was like 10.
And because the crop edge option still includes the riprap.
Correct.
Ah,
It includes the shrubs up top, planting or transplanting some of the
Mm-hmm.
sumac, the riprap, and then the seed. This, obviously, the cost is those shrubs, yeah.
Sure.
It's more expensive
Did
than
that
seed.
include the tree stuff? What was the planting stuff?
There's
about?
no trees, just some more shrubs up top. They're bayberries,
Oh, okay, okay.
10 bayberries,
Yeah, well, will they withstand somebody dumping snow on them?
probably not.
If that is in fact which that's my guess, where he
Yeah.
would push his snow.
I mean, they're pretty tough, and the fact that these dogwoods are doing okay
Okay.
makes me feel confident about it, but, no shrub, like I said,
And how far back from the edge of pavement are they?
about 6 feet.
Oh,
Just in line with the dogwoods.
oh,
And that's about 6 feet.
Yeah, judging from this, we took I didn't measure that, but we put them where the originals were on the BME plan, and in general, people stick to
and,
it.
and that's probably a conversation I can have with the property owner too, to be mindful of if we go ahead and with that plan.
He's
Be
a
mindful.
reasonable
Yes, he is.
property owner.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Likes to have places look good.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, well,
So there's dogwoods here. What was initially planted that didn't do so well?
I believe they were viburnums, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Bayberry I picked because it's super tough, and it can take salt. So if they were, if there was some residual salt coming from the flower, whatever, that would be okay. And they're semi-evergreen here. They have pretty great berries. They're just a nice native shrub.
If we were to do the vetch piece and then kind of smartly relocate some of the existing sumac,
Mhm.
how much beyond the no maintenance of just vetch is there keeping those two things kind of looking smart?
If you had a regular maintenance program, it would be fine.
With,
If you had someone coming more than, just once a season, you're gonna have crown vetch on top of your sumac.
Okay.
I mean, you could do, I could look into a different option. I picked the crown vetch because it's so tough and aggressive that I felt like it would be a good match for the Phragmites. And it'll fill fast. But there's other mixes out there if you want, just like a low-mow fescue or something that gets weed whacked once a year. Could do that.
Low maintenance, looks good. That's kind of what I'm,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the crown veg idea, and you kind of sold me on it when you said we'll blend what we have there now to make it look like it wasn't
More
by
intentional.
accident that this
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, and I think eventually that's going to be less maintenance. Maybe one more year of like the type of maintenance you had, just to get it established. While it gets established, and then you could judge. All right, because again, maybe that's something DPW can do. It's pretty easy to say.
after we're settled in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
after you settle in. Not that I want to take work away from us. I'd be happy to keep maintaining.
Yes, but we'll have other
You know,
projects.
I'm on your side, so yeah.
Like what you see, Donna?
Do you want to talk about the butterfly garden? That's a little pretty straightforward.
This looks great this year. I thought.
Good, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So just, trying to fill in the blank spots. I added some butterfly bush, which you have over by the existing tree line, just for some repetition and to take up more space than a perennial would take up. And then I have some asters for some fall color because I felt like that was probably the least of what you had. A lot of what you have is busy during the summer. And then some butterfly weed, which is a beautiful orange flowering native perennial.
Cool.
And those spots were based on some pictures I took again in August. I kind of just identified areas that seemed the most sparse. But I don't know that that would be 100% coverage. We got to see what
Sure.
comes back next year. But I think it's a good start.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing this doesn't change the maintenance one way or the other.
No, it'd be the same.
I like it.
Yeah, I want to point out on though, that we lost this whole bed here. That's all gone now. But what's there now, it was nice to see it attended to this year. Really, if you've been over there, it really felt better.
Yeah, I saw a lot more people. A lot more people interacting with
Oh, good.
the sundial,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
which I
neat.
thought was because it was so much more
Mhm.
visible. Like
Yes.
not just a rock sitting there, but they could see that it was some kind
Mm.
of formation.
And as part of our other grant program, we'll be adding signage this year,
Oh, great.
this in 23, talking about the pollinator garden and the sundial and so
Excellent.
forth. So, yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's 4 contracts we're looking at, right? There's maintenance on each parcel.
Mhm.
Then there's a replanting or, renovation for each parcel.
And the maintenance I did put as one contract this time.
Oh, did
I
you?
just broke it out.
Oh, okay.
Yes, just broke it out. And,
Oh, okay.
that did not change. That's the one I emailed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've got butterfly garden,
Oh, okay.
spring cleanup, and then butterfly garden 4 visits,
Yeah,
and North Main Street parking lot 4 visits.
great.
And then
Great.
4 cleanups.
Thanks. And of note, although if you've got that proposal for the maintenance, that looks like a big number, but it's less this year significantly, isn't it? I
Yes,
think,
yeah.
than prior years, and we could expect that eventually it would.
Either it'll be something you can handle. I mean, the butterfly garden, that's always going to require
Sure,
ideally, 4
a light
visits.
hand,
Yeah.
right, but the North Main parking lot
I would say
eventually.
make the goal be eventually it's something DPW can handle.
Nicole, quick question. It looks like there's a tally of $26,000, nearly 27, but is that,
That's because there's 2
we're
options for
considering
the
page 2
parking
or
lot.
page 3, right?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Just
so
wanna
it's either the
clarify.
10 or the 13.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we need our approval since it's a budgeted item that we've talked about, and just leave this to you and Nicole to work out, or are we
If
approving?
it's already budgeted, yeah, you could leave it at the discretion of the executive director. Select that.
Because it's a contract, I'd prefer that you approve the maintenance one separately and approve the,
Okay.
I'm not, I'd feel more comfortable with that.
And is everybody good? So let's go back to the North Main parking lot. So we're talking about putting some additional plantings up on the top of the slope, replanting some of the existing sumacs that are there on the slope, and adding a ground cover, and then at the bottom of the slope having a 5-foot wide small riprap stone fill along edge of pavement. So is everybody good with all of those components of that?
The other question I have is I want to make sure we're learning from our past lessons. With the plantings on the top, 6-7 feet, is that enough? Do we think that's enough space? Go ask for your expert
For
opinion.
snow,
With snow in mind, should we just go with vetch up there, leave the dogwood that are there, or do you think it's?
I want to
wise
know if
investment?
that's really what they're doing, because to be honest, if I were designing that, I would give you like 8 feet probably, just to be safe. Because different companies use different plow sizes. I don't know what size the plow is, so 6 is probably okay, but I'd say if I were designing it, I'd draw like 8 to 10 probably. So is there any way you could find that out?
And I think that's something that we can leave to Martha, sure, talk to the Albertis and.
Yes.
And work that out, Nicole.
Right. Timeline anyhow, though, you would be planting,
Spring.
yes, so we'll have this winter to
Yes,
to test it
observe,
and
yeah.
adjust that top line as
Yeah.
appropriate.
Mhm.
If we take 10 of those plantings out, I imagine that would have at least some impact on the overall spend.
Well, I would imagine you just move them down, right? Or could you,
I was saying I would group them.
oh, you'd relocate them in
I would-
total?
Well, you don't have to have them, but
Oh,
you're
right.
going to put something.
These are the ones that survive?
That's existing, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I would probably take these and do like a
Okay.
transition between Phragmites and the new
If
plants.
that's
If he
that
says, yes,
snowplow.
in fact, I do need to plow there.
Okay,
And I guess leave the dogwoods since they're okay.
They're happy.
Yeah, but if they're happy, I doubt that he's,
right.
I think it was more that was so overwhelmed by everything else that maybe the ones that were planted, if they were viburnums, you typically do get them small. Maybe they were small and they just got suffocated out.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
All right, so we have that, and then on the butterfly garden, everything looks good with that. So,
Mhm.
do we want to make a motion to enter into the restoration contract for the 2 properties,
So moved.
Josh Landscape?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have maintenance proposals. Do we have that?
Well, they're the same, that they are in your package. They are the,
I saw ones from 21 in my package. So I was a little confused when I was.
Oh.
So I wasn't really sure what I was looking at.
oh, this is last year's.
oh,
So I-
Apologies.
We don't have a name.
Yes, yes.
I just have a copy, but
So last year, for example, the contract for the butterfly garden, right, was $12,000 of maintenance. And the proposal this year is,
it's broken out differently.
right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's
If you go
kind
to
of-
page 14, right, you can see that last year our butterfly garden maintenance was
Mhm.
12,000.
Yeah.
The proposal this year is 6,934.
Yeah.
And you also have a similar breakdown on page 14 for the North Main parking lot. That was about 12,000 this year, also only
So I don't
6,900.
want you to feel like we totally like robbed you last year or anything. It was more hours.
Yes.
But now that we've got it under control, now we can maintain. Before it was like a lot of trying to battle the craziness that was there. And so it just took longer.
Mhm.
But, talking with our
Sure.
operations guy, I checked my hours with him. Okay, are we safe here? Yes, okay. But he did ask, can we do it? Can we split it up to more frequent visits so that we can stay on top of it better and not have it take longer and less visits?
So am I correct then?
So
that the
it went
total for
down, but it
maintenance Is $13,842.
If that's what it says
Probably,
on the bottom, yeah.
Last year was 12,000.
Last year was 24,000.
So in 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
what's a reasonable expectation we should have for maintenance after we get the plan that we're talking about now in place and established?
So the butterfly garden wouldn't change because the maintenance is what it is, and we're not changing the form of it. The north parking lot, I would say you could probably cut it in half, the maintenance.
And
It's
then-
never going to be no maintenance,
Yeah.
but you could either cut it in half or maybe even get to the point where, because it's pretty, there's not a lot of different things like there are in the butterfly garden. You don't need a horticulturist there who knows what plant is what. maybe DPW, it's something they can handle. You know, so maybe you do away with paying for maintenance of that eventually and
Mhm.
just have them care for it.
So if we're comfortable with that, we could take a motion to enter into a maintenance agreement for the North Main parking lot and the butterfly garden with Josh Lansky.
Are you asking for a motion?
Yeah. If you
I'll make that.
Okay, thank you.
Seconded.
Any more discussion or questions for Nicole on this? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Yes.
Are we going with the Crown Vetch or are we going with the, or have we not
Crown
decided
Vetch.
yet? Crown Vetch, okay.
Do you need this back?
Nope.
Okay.
So we'll
Hey.
talk. I'll
Awesome.
get some signatures.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right,
you. Have a
thank
great
you,
day.
thank you.
Or just for you to recycle. all
Thank
that.
you. Thanks, appreciate that. Thanks. Good stuff.
All right. Any other old business for IDA?
I do not have anything.
Okay, go to new business, board evaluation review.
Right, as you recall, every year we do an evaluation of the board and then it's confidential and then we aggregate the responses. And I just wanted to circulate that back to you, where you can see we weren't in agreement on everything. And I wanted to just bring that before you and say, is there additional information or additional training or anything else that we might be able to offer the board to get more unanimous responses, or not, but that if there's a glaring issue we need to address on this is a good way to kind of flesh that out.
The good news is they're all in agreement, disagreements on it. So
Right,
that's a positive.
that is very positive. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
I'll speak because I was one of the twos, even though we're confidential. I'm saying this for a friend. He was one of the people that said somewhat agreed with the clear and measurable performance goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thought there was we've never done that. I don't think there have been quantifiable or measurable goals. We talk about action plans and things that we want to do, but I'm not sure that's bad either. I mean, or I'm not sure how you work. It's measurable, saying we're going to spend $100,000 on this and we've met our budget, or is it we want to increase our loan portfolio by 37%? We've never done that, and I'm not sure how appropriate that is for an agency.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one thought that went
That's-
into that.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I suspect I might have been the other person who, speaking for a friend. And I was thinking, I'm doing a lot of this right now at work, setting, these key performance indicators for the goal for staff. And we have this, we're using like this year as a baseline. We're saying like, okay, looking at like the information and saying, okay, what did we do last year? What do we think good performance looks like? And let's use this year to test some of these, like to set goals and test where we feel comfortable with those. So I think it would be interesting to say like, yeah, does increase in portfolio, is that a measure of success for us? Or coming within a certain percentage of budget, is that, a goal that we want to have? Like, I think the discussion has to start with like, what are what do we consider a success?
Yeah.
And then testing out. I don't think I'd want to just be like, okay, like from day one, these are what we have to achieve without testing.
Right, I mean, I make a great point, yes.
Mhm.
And maybe as to how do we deal with that, maybe this is when we have our annual planning session, does this make sense for us to do it? Are there just we don't have to measure everything necessarily, maybe, but are there a few key things that we can set goals that are measurable? I don't know, but I mean, it's kind of a discussion point, to figure out what those might be, and maybe that's addressed in planning.
I think, don't some things lend themselves to measurable goals than others? I mean, like, for example, the front porch grants, for every X dollars we granted, there was this, 10
The
times,
leverage.
leveraging that, those
Yeah.
numbers always look great. When you look at our portfolio,
Right.
those are not as easy.
I think one of the
Clean.
tools we have now is our plan, our economic development plan, which has very specific steps that are also laddered out over several years. So I think that would also be something we could look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking at the timeframes that are associated with some of those line items,
Mhm.
right? Seeing how we all agree on a window of time associated with different aspects of the plan. Have a target to shoot for organizationally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like hearing how other people's brains work, because I think I've always thought of the planning meeting as that, setting up expectations for the year to come. What do we want to accomplish as an organization? But I think there are definitely areas where we know what we want to improve upon. We talk about it all the time, mitigating risk with the loan portfolio and avoiding some of the, learning from the lessons we've learned from or had to learn from in the past, but putting some thought into KPIs. Yeah, makes sense.
Great. Good.
That's one of them, and then these, and I think we can talk about them for as all agency here, because then it goes across the board.
I think that we had that good discussion about where we had the 3 and 2 vote. The other ones are
Yeah.
somewhat, and
somewhat. And so I guess what I would say as chair, if there is an area that you're not comfortable with bringing up at a board meeting or as a group, and if you wanted to talk to me about something you don't feel that you're getting enough information timely or whichever, feel free to bring that to me. I can try to address it or try to help with it. And then if there's a problem that I'm not doing something about, it's kind of an odd relationship, but go to Martha, because Martha will tell me stuff. So, I mean, if that's the case too, so that we do, we saw her note that she had her meeting with the mayor today and talked about an engaged board that we have. And I think part of that is and she said, oh, well, we work together, which I strongly believe in, but I just want to make sure that we continue to be able to do that and have good communication is a big part of it. So there are ways that, if you're not happy about something, if you don't want to bring it up at a meeting, come to me, come to Martha, whichever.
Mhm.
Cool.
thank you.
Anything else on that? All right, let's go to mood boards.
Mhm. Right, so our consultants, Black Dog Design, sent over concept boards, mood boards. This is not a final decision time on these. They wanted to send some over to just take a temperature check. I found it very helpful to read the description of those, what they're presenting to us. For example, in concept 1, simple sans serif typefaces and geometric shapes to create a look that is forward-thinking and playful. Okay. Then the concept 2, illustration to highlight historical landmarks and attractions and duotone imagery adds a modern edge. Concept 3 is sophisticated, high-end, and minimal, using generous white space to let the photography be the emphasis. Modernist layouts create a sophisticated aesthetic. So, if you think about that as you're looking at those, again, they're just trying to say, is one of these just not even in the ballpark? It's not a final design at all. So if you want to just kind of freewheel and I encouraged Black Dog to watch the meeting tonight or to watch the replay to get your comments on the typefaces and the mood boards. So Ms. White, I know, had some comments.
Well, I'm drawn to number 3. I like that style of design generally, with white space and large imagery. Since these came over, I've been in my head trying to figure out how can they be able to secure that imagery and still meet our design and completion deadlines, because some of these pictures need to be taken in the spring, or we have to buy them. You know what I mean? That's I like number 3 the best. 2 is, number 1 is my second choice. Just personally, that's what my eyes drawn to.
Number
3 and then 1.
Mm-hmm. Great. Those were both sophisticated, so it's clear.
Well, that's good.
Let's go on.
Yes.
Can't take that out. Yeah, I mean, it's just there.
Yeah, I don't like 2 because I don't want to lift bridge.
Well,
Okay.
I don't want to lift bridge logo. It was kind of unique when we first started using the lift bridge when other people didn't. It was a switch pretty much from a packet boat to a lift bridge. Everybody was, years ago, everything in the village was packet boat. All the logos, school district still uses it, school district still uses it. But then everybody has been transitioning for organizations, whatever, to lift bridge logo. I don't think we should be going there. I think we should be more sophisticated than that.
Okay.
Well, I also wonder if, like, using that historical look doesn't differentiate us from everything else in the village that uses the packet boat, but it also kind of, in my head, it makes me think that is it going to be difficult to change a building, a place, a parcel, because everything is historic there. And then maybe it's just tying that historic preservation, it's tying in preservation versus just historic. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if we're looking to bring in people who may have to dramatically change a building to be able to attract the businesses, the operations, whatever it is we're looking for, is this a negative? That's my head.
Good observation. Yeah.
Now with Leslie on the top 2, I think I probably prefer 1 more than 3, but I like them both, and I think we could make it work.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of, like, my eye is drawn to 3. My eye is drawn to things that look like 3 in magazines and on other things that I may interface with. It's clean, and the pictures are the focus. My concern with it, and this is what I was thinking through before the meeting today, was the utility of the site, right? From a developer standpoint, or from a citizen of Fairport or the surrounds that's looking for information. I worry about how pretty that website looks, but all that white space, I guess and our friends at Black Dog will be able to guide us here certainly, but my concern is aesthetically pleasing is potentially at a crossroads or a conflict with functionality. And those pros will be able to talk us through maybe how that works, how we marry the 2. But I was thinking 2 would almost be a marriage of those 2. And I thought 1 might be a little bit too bold. Was my first reaction. Maybe some of that is color choice and all of that jazz. But when I looked at them, I was thinking 2 my brain went to 2 being a good marriage between, the the nod to the historical past that we celebrate in Fairport. And 3 was more the future. So I was thinking like a combination of 2 and 3.
Your first comment about 1 being, or sorry, number 3 being in the functionality of it. Each of these examples is a printed document, like a magazine or a postcard or a flyer, and the hallmark of everything now is our website. And the creamy coastline can slide over and the text comes down. And suddenly that beautiful image is gone. And you've got the functionality. That's because I looked at that several times and wondered the same thing in my head. But then thinking about, so little of what we do is actually on paper, or we're not creating beautiful brochures any longer as a business, or and how would that look on the website? And that's kind of how I kept coming back to that and then thinking through that a little further. That's just me.
I like how clean 3 is. I just want to make sure that the average citizen, no matter how tech savvy they may or may not be, can easily find what they need when they need it.
See, I think the average citizen will see that beautiful picture, whether it's the creamy coastline or a beauty shot of Main Street, with or without the bridge. I don't know. And now
I don't mind having a bridge in there, I just don't want it logoed.
Well, correct. But how could you look at that image, taken beautifully and not feel proud to live in this village, or oh, I made the right choice.
Yeah, but who are we trying to attract?
Well, we've got 3 different audiences,
Right. So for me, the playful, the first one, that tagline, playful, that's not to me about who OSET is and who we're trying to attract. We're trying to attract that Section 8 URA audience for functionality, and we're trying to attract the investors.
I don't know if we have to attract personally, I don't think we have to attract Section 8. They come to us because we are it's a utilitarian use for them.
They don't have an alternate.
Yeah, there isn't a choice. So yes, it has to come and be functional for them, but we don't necessarily have to attract them. They're going to come to us.
So attract is the wrong word that I used. The audience who's going to use it to come for information and practice or whatever. So for me, the concept 1, that playfulness, it doesn't, to me, it's not the right message for the audience. I like how Rob put it about like concept 2 marrying the 2. A lot of white, honestly, when I come to a page like that, I think there's not a lot of there. That's there's a lot of empty space because there's not a lot enough to fill it. But on the other hand, not wanting it to be too crowded, which is where I look at like concept 2 and feel that oh, maybe it's too crowded. So maybe I think I have a similar perspective as Rob does on it, that maybe it's somewhere between 2 and 3.
It's all good discussion.
Yeah, and interestingly, when Jesse and Chris were in town last week, I caught up with them and had a beer with them later in the evening, and Chris said, I already know. He said after talking to everyone today that he talked to, and they just they just kept getting similar feedback, and they just I think their day was well spent in getting a picture of Fairport and how we're perceived and how now they're going to see how we want to be perceived. But it gave him a lot of insight into which of those concepts that he personally thought would be best for us based on the information he had. He didn't tell me what it was, but I didn't ask. I didn't want it to influence any of our discussion. But this is great. It just tells me everything's in play here. And blended is probably best. So you had some thoughts on them too.
Right. But I think we've got plenty already to mull over. So they'll be watching, and and listening, and we'll see what they'll come back with. We have our regularly scheduled call next Monday, so we'll be talking to them. Because as we recall, part of the contract, they will be delivering the rebranding in January. So we're focused on this at this time. So it's good, a lot of good information here. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else on that, or any questions about the branding or what happened last week when they were in town? Martha spent a good portion of time with them.
And they continue to make follow-up phone calls. They're going to be talking to one of the community relations people for the Canal Corp. I believe they've still got a call with Redbird Market yet. And they had a great conversation with Joel Barrett. So they continue to do their work. So
I'm curious what types of questions they were.
I was not present, so I don't know. But
They did a lot of listening. One was their first group, but it was what, 3 or 4?
there were 4 individuals in the first group.
As a group, and then other ones were, they talked with individually,
Mm-hmm.
some by
In
phone,
person and some.
some by
Mm-hmm.
in person. But they kept talking about a common theme. And I think that a lot of that had to do with people really, like Fairport, and it's about Fairport. And I was kind of processing that. You don't usually hear someone from Henrietta saying, this is nothing about Henrietta itself, but just other communities embracing their community. And I love Fairport. I just didn't know. And it's a selling point for me to bring people into my businesses. And there's just so many good things going on. They just don't, I personally don't hear other communities talking like that about their community. I think they've really picked up on that. Now maybe it was cherry picked on who they spoke with, as well. But there were people that definitely embraced Fairport, and that was eye-opening to them.
Right, and we're not a fading Rust Belt city that is trying to revive itself either. So this
small
is
sleepy canal town.
right,
As they came in.
right. So it was very eye-opening for them. So good. Good.
Any other, that's the last of our agenda, right?
Yep.
Any other discussion for IDA? Anything else anybody have?
I've got a few before
Okay.
you close. So I just wanted to mention that I had a meeting with the mayor today, and she asked me to talk with you about if we had any questions, concerns, or whatever with regard to the Liftbridge Lane East proposal, draft proposal. She really is trying to get feedback from the community. I did attend the meeting last Wednesday night, I believe it was. It was a full house here. Lots of good discussion. I don't know the status of the project right now because it was quite an active discussion. So, but she asked me to, check in with you and see if you all had any input, or feel free to share it offline or whatever. But the idea being improving safety, walkability, bikeability, etc. So,
Since we have supported a lot of those businesses in that area, I would just be curious if there was consensus on the feedback among, were the businesses present at that meeting along that area?
yes, and they were generally not in support of it as presented. They felt it would harm their businesses. So there was a lot of discussion of it, and the plan is not in concrete. So we'll see, but generally not in favor.
Were there factors that came up that they were not in favor of, kind of over and over?
There was concern about businesses that rely, for example, on takeout quite a bit. There was concern for mobility issues of some of their customers. The plan it's fairly fluid, but they plan on opening the FMC lot, for example, the one past Water Street, to public parking in the evening.
The little one on the left. Just
Mhm.
beyond. Okay.
But it goes farther, and it's got a gate, I believe. So they're talking about opening that up to add additional parking. But people were concerned about those with limited mobility and so forth. There was several bicyclists that spend a great deal of time on our streets. They have concerns about the North Main Street and the crossing there, and how confusing it is and so forth.
I heard they also were concerned about the bicycle lane being on the left, not the
Yes.
right. And
Yes.
I heard one of them say that our brains aren't wired that way, you
Right.
know, as bicyclists, that you're going against the traffic, you know,
Just right with traffic.
and you know, they were all thinking that it should be
On the south
on,
side.
on the south side,
Right.
and you're gonna have cross traffic now pulling in. Some real,
Another, a local planner talked about if you remove the parking on the south side of the street, what you've done now is put pedestrians right next to traffic. And that actually it's a straight shot through. And so that traffic would now, in his opinion, be traveling faster. We all know when we're driving and there's cars parked on the side, you naturally are slowing down. So there's more work to be done, I think, on the project. The original goal for the village was to get that out for bid and to complete it prior to spring of '23, or before the festival season. I don't know what the status is of it. I think it's getting a lot of interest from the local residents and businesses and so forth. So I don't know the status of it, but she's welcomed any input we would like to give.
do you know, and one of the questions I had, and it was asked, at the Main Street Liffridge Lane intersection, East intersection, is the size of that, the width of the Liffridge Lane at the intersection going to shrink from what it is now because of the bike lane? What I'm thinking is when Liffridge Lane was done the last time, there wasn't enough room to put a turn lane in, a full turn lane, or traffic turning right onto or to go north coming out of Liffridge Lane. There wasn't enough room. However, it became kind of a de facto turning lane. It didn't meet all the requirements for full-fledged. But a car, if someone was going left, they were still able, the right turn people were still able to keep moving. It appeared to me with that new bike lane that may no longer be the case, which I would think at 5 o'clock, I mean, the traffic is definitely would queue up much longer if there was a left turn guy there waiting at 5 o'clock to turn, and nobody could go right. Just stack traffic. And I don't, was there any,
That
and I could be wrong, maybe
particular
there is, maybe that staying with still exists. I don't know.
There was not discussion at the meeting about that in particular. There were several people that asked for traffic studies or data on the number of users.
Well, didn't their seeker cover all that?
Don't know if there was, I'm not familiar with the seeker.
report.
I would think the seeker would cover all the
Right.
traffic counts.
I don't know if seeker's been done. I don't know. I don't know. I'm literally don't know if it's been done. Because again, this is a draft proposal.
I worry about the number of parking spots you're gonna lose, even if you open up FMC. It's been like thinking about the times, the box factory lot is generous in terms of size and stuff, but when they have, like years ago when they would have the car nights and Thursday nights or whatever, Tuesday nights I think were car nights, that lot would be lost to parking because of the cars, and that area would be very, very full. So I worry about if those sorts of activities, and as wonderful as they are, happen in the box factory lot, what it would do to parking along there, especially early in the evening when there's lots of walkers and families are down there and the strollers are going and all that sort of stuff.
Well, if you,
Anything, think of some things, and we'll let, I mean, you could reach out individually, or we could contact Martha with a couple of things.
the mayor also, I sent out an email to you. We're looking to have the mayor's looking to have a joint board meeting So hopefully in February 28th and May 23rd at the village board work sessions. That's the tentative schedule. And I just told her a little recap about my board being very active, engaged, informed, and with their own unique skills and talents that really work well together. And I contrasted that with where I used to work, which was the board was not engaged. And it's very refreshing and makes it a lot more productive this
Well,
way.
we must get paid more than that other board.
So that was my meeting today. I also am working on 2 applications to the Restore New York program, which offers 90% reimbursement on costs up to $2 million to renovate, deconstruct, renovate, rehabilitate existing commercial buildings that are important to the community. We're looking at 75 North Main. And also today we had a really terrific meeting with Iron Smoke Whiskey and their proposed, I don't want to say too many things, but that they've been trying to expand their production line. And so we're going to put forward a letter of intent for those 2 projects by the end of the month. And the funds would actually flow through to the village because the municipality is the only approved applicant to those funds. But it was a very good meeting. I think there'll be 2 good projects. That letter of intent will get us a meeting with the Empire State Development folks and find out what they think about the projects and which ones might, make it through to the next round. And then we'll focus on whichever rises to the top.
Or the ESD as the source of funds in that
Yes.
situation? Nice.
Yes. Yep.
90% is,
Yes.
90%, that's solid.
It caught the attention of the property owners.
Good.
Yes.
Good, it should.
You might recall that we received a grant from from Erie Canalway to make some improvements out at Thomas Creek Wetlands. And we've got concrete pads out there for the benches. The benches are on back order. Hopefully will arrive in December. I checked in with Fairport Municipal Commission. The pole, they've relocated a pole, run the fiber, and ordered the cameras. And they worked with the police chief to determine which camera would be best. We're going to put one at the parking lot and one down opposite the overlook. And then we're going to work on some signage in the spring. So we're well into that project, which is terrific. Had a good meeting with Canal Corp Director Brian Stratton was in last week with his team, and he gave me a call and asked me to come over and meet him. And I think that's called Pittsburgh. I'm not sure. I've heard of it. But they were in town to talk about their embankment project. And so it was really good to get together with them. And I think that's it for me.
Anything else?
No, I'll just say that's a good thing. That's something that when we talk about your role and you do a good job in it. The fact that he reached out to you when he comes into town, that says plenty.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Good. And